Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today we'll be talking about 10 bad habits players have in Valorant, and I'm going to be giving some advice sort of on how to fix them. I don't want to say that only new players make these or do these things, because trust me, I see this all the time at my rank as well. With that being said, if you guys do enjoy the video, remember hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell. I stream pretty much every single day on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dragonmar. I'd love to see you guys there. Without any further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, the first bad habit we have to talk about, coming in at number 1, is reloading too early or too often. This is one of the most common things that I have seen whenever I watch VOD reviews, especially of iron players, bronze players, silver players. This is something you see a lot because in a lot of other games, it's more common to reload early. A lot of people will call this the Call of Duty reload. And the problem here is that in a game like Valorant, especially a game where sound is so important, hearing someone reload is a big giveaway. But on top of that, in a game like Valorant, where only one bullet to the head is going to kill someone, and oftentimes people are reloading things like Vandals and Phantoms, you sort of eliminate the need for that reload in a lot of those circumstances. Now, people have watched me a lot on stream, have about 5 bullets in my Vandal in a clutch situation, and I won't be reloading. And they'll always, some people tell me to reload, and I always tell them, especially even the people in my game chat, I'm like, hey, I got this, don't worry. And then sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. Let's be honest, I might lose more than I win, but when I hit them, oh, and it feels good. The point here, though, stands is that if you guys are reloading after every single kill, when you're in dangerous situations, you have to cut that out as quickly as you can. It's a super bad habit. It's going to get you in a lot of trouble. Essentially, anytime you have above 10 bullets, you should feel pretty confident in at least holding your own for the next fight. Obviously, if you get down to something like 5, that's when you really want to reload. But people will reload on like 20, 19, 18 shots left. And I'm like, what on earth are you expecting? Are you going to take down an entire army with this next mag? Like, I don't even know what's going on. Anyways, super bad habit here, but such an easy fix. Just remember, if you are above about 10 bullets, there's really no need to reload right away. Make sure you guys are safe first, then go for the reload. Because remember, most of the time, the people taking these reloads too early are also doing them out in the open and getting themselves killed. All right, bad habit number 2 is something that I personally have been trying to fix for myself as well. It's overtalking when dead. Now, I will say that there is definitely a time and a place for making comms when you're not alive, but if someone's in a clutch situation, generally speaking, you want to be as quiet as possible. Now, if you absolutely think they missed something, I think it is okay to try to make a comm and to try to say, hey, he dropped or he reloaded or something like that. However, I think it's a real big problem when people almost micromanage the team when they die, which is just super not helpful in a lot of circumstances. It's one thing to sort of call out valuable information, like if you get killed, you can say, oh, this player was here, doing X, Y, and Z, and then you kind of shut up for the rest of it. The big problem is that a lot of players think they are better than they are, and they think they know too much. And the honest truth is sometimes you just have to let your teammates play. If it feels like your team is confused or stuck, you could obviously suggest something, right? I'm not telling you not to talk when dead. I think it's perfectly fine for dead people to talk. I just think it's really important to know your place and know your role and not overstep, because when you overstep when you're dead, that's when you can start pissing people off, and you don't want to do that because that's going to lead to problems further down the road with your team. Maybe people are not going to be too happy with you. They won't communicate with you the same. Really important not to step on anybody's toes when you're doing this kind of stuff. Try to be helpful, but don't go like overboard. And I think a lot of people know these limits and they still find themselves doing it. So super important here. If you are someone who overtalks when you're dead, try to tone it back. Just say things you absolutely have to and let your teammates play the game. All right, bad habit number 3, and this one is specifically about Phoenix. It's hiding from a Phoenix ult without telling your team. So, as a lot of us know, Phoenix ult obviously goes away after the brief time it is used, and a lot of people have decided that it's not worth fighting it, and I think that's fine. It definitely isn't in some circumstances. You're always risking getting killed, and what do you do in return? Well, you take away the Phoenix's armor maybe if you kill the ultimate. Anyways, the problem here, and this is something that's been happening to me a lot in my own games, specifically on Icebox recently, is where I'm noticing it the most, is that a teammate will let a Phoenix run by them, and the Phoenix won't know where the teammate is. And then they'll just come around the corner and kill me, because I won't be expecting my teammate to let them go. So, What do we talk about all the time, guys? We talk about communication. If you are hiding from the Phoenix ult, you have to let your teammates know. It is so important. Do not be the player who lets the Phoenix ult walk past them and then kills a teammate. I mean, it is just so not worth it. Kill the ult yourself if that's even going to even possibly happen. Because that's a horrible trade. Regardless, losing a teammate for an ult, what? Come on, like. This is a really important one. I think for a lot of people who maybe think they're making a smart play by hiding from the ult, but then at the same time, like, you're potentially risking your teammate's life. So all that matters here is communication. If you let your teammate know you're letting the ultimate walk past you, that's on them at that point. Of course, they might still die, but you've done what you have to do. Just don't be silent, please. It's such a bad habit to be silent about anything in this game and not make comms, like when you hear footsteps, things like that. So please talk if you're going to do this. All right, this next one's going to infuriate some people. Coming in at number 4, it is pushing in before smokes land. This is such a problem across the board. I mean, this is something people do all over the place. And the problem here is that smokes take times to develop, especially Omen smokes. And because of that, a lot of people see the smoke go out and they instantly start pushing. The problem here is that if a player is holding that angle, generally they will hold while the smoke is still dropping and until it falls, so that they can potentially see some legs under the smoke or something like that and take some free shots. You're probably thinking, okay, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is if you push too early, you're gonna die, right? We see this all the time. The biggest problem by far is when you're smoking off an opper. You see people getting opped under smoke all the time. As it's landing, they'll just turn the corner a little too early and one shot and they're gone. And this is such an easy fix. All you have to do is look on your map, make sure that smoke is fully down, and then push. We're actually talking probably like half a second here is all it takes. Some people are a little impatient. So if this is something you guys find yourself doing or you see your teammates doing, remind them or remind yourself, hey, wait till the smokes land, then let's go in. It is such a waste of a round to turn a corner before the smoke lands and dies. It is just such a waste because there is absolutely no need to do it. It's one of the most unnecessary things you can do in this game. Just wait that like 0.5 seconds, have a little patience, and then go in with your team and take the site or take control of the area. It's such an easy thing to do. Just requires a little patience. All right, bad habit number 5 is flashing without telling your team. Okay, listen to me. I'm not saying you have to call out every single flash, but there are people who will throw flashes without saying a word, and they will have teammates on top of them, meaning that teammate is probably looking in a similar direction and is going to get flashed by your flash. Why are you not calling that out? Why are you not saying like flashing left or flashing right? Or if you're a Sky, you could be like, hey, I'm gonna flash out a hookah. What is the point of staying silent there and blinding your team? I mean, think about it. If you blind the enemy, but you also blind the person who is trying to kill the enemy, what have you accomplished? I don't think you've accomplished you've blinded 2 people, but I think it kind of, evens itself out or cancels itself out if you blinded an enemy and a teammate. The point here is very simple, and this is something that a lot of people can work on, myself included. Call out your flashes, let your team know, and especially if you're a Phoenix and you flash left or right, let them know where your flash is going so they can prepare to turn as well. It makes a world of difference, especially if you're the entry fragger. If you're a Phoenix running into a site through a doorway, say, hey, I'm flashing left. It makes a world of difference because it tells your team where to look so they can hold angles for you as you go in, because they're not going to be staring at your flash or at blinded enemies because they know you'll take care of them. Really important here, guys. Once again, communication, super important. All right, duelists, looking at you, Jets. I've got one for you here. Bad habit number 6 is chasing kills when up players. So there have been some recent economy changes, but unfortunately not too much has changed in my opinion with how people still react when up numbers. People still chase kills a lot. Now, overall, I think it's okay, especially towards the end of the round. If you can get these guys after a round timer expires, oh man, that really hurts their economy. However, there's a lot of time left in the round. You have to be careful when you chase these kills because, and I have seen it myself, it has happened in my own games. I have been part of the problem before, is you end up taking 1v1s. Now, you might be thinking a 1v1, well, each player has an equal shot at winning, that's probably not too bad. Well, except it is, because sometimes the enemy is going to win the first one, and then they're going to win the next one. And then suddenly what was a 4v2 is now a 2v2. Your two players are split up on both sites, one on A, one on B, and now the enemy is going to attack one site with two players in a 2-on-1, putting your teammate at a disadvantage, right? That is the problem, and this happens all the time. So, what's my advice if you're going to chase kills? Go with a teammate. It's very simple. If you could take a 2v1, even if you're pushing the guy together, you're chasing together, that is much, much better than going alone. Now, a lot of people will be a little separated on it, which I think is okay because you could probably still get the trade. But if you can kind of just follow a teammate around if they're going to chase the kill, I think that is generally a better idea. Because remember, taking those 1v1s is risky, especially if a lot of time is left in the round. If there's like no time left in the round, fine, go for it. But very, very bad habit to just run blindly after these, especially early on in rounds. You got to be careful. All right, bad habit number 7 is about using ultimates too early when you could use them to stop the plant. So this is a big problem where people don't realize the value in their ultimate during a post plant. So if you are attacking and you guys get the bomb down, a lot of times you'll actually see people use their ultimates, let's say a Hunter's Fury or, you know, Brimstone's ultimate or something, and they'll use it early in that process. They won't even wait for someone to tap the bomb. They'll just use it straight away. And this is a huge problem because what you're doing is you're essentially taking away the most powerful tool you have to stop them from defusing the bomb, and you're using it early in hopes, I guess, of just getting like a pick to make things a little bit easier to defend. Now, I don't think this is always a bad idea, but you always have to weigh the pros and the cons. And I think that generally holding on to the ultimate, letting the enemy team tap the bomb, and then ulting it is almost always preferred. And I also find that a lot of times what happens is this is never communicated with the team, even if it isn't happening. You know, you have to talk with your team on these post plants. It's super, super important. I've got a video coming out about this soon as well. But if you are a Sova or you are a Brimstone, you are someone who can stop a bomb defusal with your ultimate, do not use it early. Make sure you guys hang on to it if possible, especially if you're using it like mid-round, because if you guys do get that plant, which most of the time you will, you want to have it for that defusal, and you want to have it to stop the enemy from winning the round. But equally important to play off your team. You know, you don't want your teammates just to die right away because they die too early. There's a lot going on here. My point stands, though. It is a bad habit to use your ults too early in the round. Generally, you do want to save them to stop that defuse. All right, bad habit number 8 is rotating too early from sites or over-rotating. This is something that I've talked about extensively. This is something that I'm working on myself. It is very, very difficult not to go to the fight and not to go help your team, especially when they're on other sites. However, there is something that you can think about that may help you, and that's called shifting or sliding over. So on maps like Haven, where you might have people doubled up, you can essentially slide over to a site but still leave people on each site. So you can slide your let's say garage player onto C. Maybe you're stacking up mid, put one mid player into garage, and leave your A player and then leave your B player, right? Or if you're stacking 2 on A and you need to move over to C, you send one from A to mid, you send mid to garage, and garage to C site. And the reason for this is you're sending the closest player to the site so that they can get there the quickest. Like, you're not sending your guy from A all the way over there because it's going to take forever to get there. And this way, the slide or the shift back to A is also equally easy because it's also you know, you've got players close to it, and you're not just sending, you know, your furthest player to it. You're always sending the closest player. So if you need to slide to A, you're sending a mid player. If you need to slide to C, you're sending a garage player, right? And it just works like that. Now, this isn't going to work on every map or be applicable to every situation, but generally my advice if you're over rotating is you should only rotate if you see pretty much the entire team. So like 4 players, or your teammates are calling for it because they have other information. Like, they've heard the sounds, they know people, they know they dropped the spike over there, things of that nature. Especially if you see the spike, by the way. If you see the spike, perfectly fine to rotate. And those are generally my guidelines. This is something I'm working on as well. It is hard, it is a bad habit, and I know a lot of us have to work on this. All right, moving on to bad habit number 9, and that is not running away as soon as Raze ults. Guys, what on earth is happening at the start of these rounds where people turn into statues when they hear a Raze ult? Do not take the fight with the Raze. Don't bother. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. just run away. So, excuse me. This tip is really aimed at the start of rounds and when you are on attack, because a lot of the times what's happening is that this Raze is going to ult down mid in a lot of these situations, or ult straight onto the into where you are spawning, so one of your doorways, right? And all you have to do is just run. You don't have to take these fights. Really important to remember that even if you don't die to the Raze ult, taking chunk damage, taking like 100 damage is gonna take you out of the fight in a lot of situations. It is very hard to get value when you're literally 2-shot to a Vandal or a Phantom. Another important thing to remember here. So when you guys hear these Raze ults and you're on attack, when, you know, giving up some space isn't that bad. On defense, obviously, this is a little different because when you give up your sight, I mean, then you're playing for a retake. So you really have to weigh the pros and the cons. But when you're on attack at the start of these rounds, just immediately turn around and sprint. It is never, ever worth it. Another big tip here is to always look at who has ultimates pre-round and see, hey, if this Raze has ultimate, there is a chance she's going to do some weird blast pack, you know, flight simulator type stuff. So be ready for it and just run away. All right, bad habit number 10, the final one of the video, is re-peeking enemies even when you're on low health. So what I mean by this is there is a lot of, let's say, lower ranked players in the VODs I watch. And one of the most common things I see is repeaks. Now, repeaks aren't necessarily bad, especially if you're feeling confident in your shot, you feel like you can out-aim the enemy, and at least a repeak, you generally know where the players are. But the problem here is a lot of these times these guys are tagged, and they're not just tagged, they're also very low health. If you guys are ever below about 80 health, or below that even, like 40 health, you have to remember how many bullets it takes to kill you. So the Vandal is going to do about 40, right? If you are below 40 health, you have to remember your repeak, you are literally risking dying to 1 bullet. So it's really important to understand what is happening and how likely you are to win and lose those fights. If you peek a corner, take damage, and then repeak that corner with 30 health, I'm sorry, but you clearly do not know you're not weighing the pros and the cons of what's going to happen. You're not weighing the likely outcomes, the likely scenarios, because the probability of you winning an aim duel, unless you obviously tagged him the same amount, but how are you really going to know that unless you dink him or something? But let's pretend you didn't dink him. So you turn that corner on 30 health, what's going to happen? You think that guy's not going to like shoot you in the leg or the body at least? Maybe he's not hitting headshots, but really high chance he hits at least 1 shot. So my advice to anybody in this game who finds himself repeaking a lot and dying is check what your health is and make sure you know how much damage you've taken and the weapon you're fighting against. If you're fighting against a Spectre, it's way different. But if you're fighting against Vandals and Phantoms and Ops, be careful with these repeaks because a lot of times people are throwing away their life. Even if you do not kill players, remember, having your presence alive on a site or in a position is still going to hold up the enemy, is still going to cause them problems. So it's way better to not repeak and live and stay on low and stay alive on low health for later in the round than it is to repeak and die, because then generally you're giving up map control, positioning, and all that kind of good stuff. So just remember, check that health. This is a super common thing that happens in lower ranks. Repeaks are going to get you guys murdered. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any bad habits you guys want to share in the comments, feel free to leave them below. I'd love to see what you guys think. If you guys see a lot of this stuff in your games as well. If you enjoyed, remember to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and tap the bell, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy and peace.